Welcome into another episode of the Young Entrepreneurs Network podcast. This time I'm joined by Chris Burns, who's someone that I know pretty well now, mainly because I consume his content every single day, but also because he came into the high earners group that we have, the Immortals, done an incredible mastermind where the guys took so much value away and implemented it directly into their business. So I thought it would be a no-brainer to get on, do a public episode where we can deliver some more of that value to all of you guys. So thank you so much, Chris, for coming on, mate. I really do appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
It's going to be class, mate.
Hopefully.
Storytelling, copywriting, AI, all sorts, mate.
Yes.
We're ready to rock on all of this, mate. I actually had my editor, Victor, message me this morning being like, don't think you need any clarification on this, mate, but like this AI shit, like, can we make sure it's at the front of getting as much value as possible from the pod? And I was like, defos, mate, we'll unravel that stuff. Because I think one of the things I found most interesting was you see a lot of content, especially on like LinkedIn, which I'm not sure if you've ever put out, like a story in the morning where you say good morning to everyone except LinkedIn wankers that
I've done
the shit.
Yeah, I've done a couple of them. Yeah. LinkedIn's been in my crosshairs a couple of times in the good morning posts for sure.
How many times have you done those good morning posts, or how long have you done them for?
Oh, mate, I think I'm on to, I think it's maybe 2-3 months now, Monday to Friday.
That's class, man.
So yeah, I done it years ago, and people used to say, "Oh, why didn't you bring that back? That was really funny." And then like I've been notoriously inconsistent with my social media, and that was a way of me being like, you know what, bit of fun, bit of crack in the morning, keeps me consistent, means I'm on my stories every day, so it ticked all the boxes.
Nice.
And people see the amount of in-person interactions I've had over those good morning posts. And if anybody doesn't know, it's like good morning to everyone except, and then I pick something. It can be anything. I mean, it really can be. I can't even. This morning it was going on everybody except people who say "excuse me." So it goes from like the serious to the ridiculous and everything in between. But yeah, it's good fun.
Yeah, no, I could see LinkedIn getting in your crosshairs and that one, mate. Because there's so much shit on there, mate.
Oh, guff, absolute guff
on a regular basis. But one of the things I found interesting when obviously I came across yourself through it was, I think Jack Taylor first brought you up. Then Yanni was also speaking about you as well, which I've had Yanni on the podcast as well. When I checked out your socials and stuff like that, the fact that you're a copywriter that was pro AI, like utilize this within the business.
Yeah.
When you looked on like LinkedIn and stuff like that, there's so much pushback on like just AI not being ready or not being able to be utilized within copywriting or not being able to utilize within email marketing. Whereas you were someone that was just so pro that side of things, which I just found incredible and I found it really interesting. And then obviously you came in, you done the like private session for the Immortals clients, and it was very clear how you're utilizing it. But what was your initial kind of like journey with it? Were you like against it to begin with and then adopted it, or were you always like pro bringing AI and start to utilize it within the business?
To be honest, I was very indifferent at the beginning. I'm not a technical person at all. I've never really been one for, we were literally talking before this podcast started about computer games, and I don't even know if they're called computer games anymore. I'm showing my age, I'm 33, Jesus Christ. And how the last game I played was Pro Evolution Soccer 2. Like, I've never written code. So basically, I've never been somebody that's like really up to date on technology. Like, I'm not like a total dinosaur. So I think like when AI came along, I just seen it just like, you know, like when like crypto came along and NFTs, I was just like, oh, I don't really know what this stuff is. I've never really paid much attention. But then I heard more and more about how it was impacting copywriting and coming into that. So I thought, well, I should really pay attention to this because it's my livelihood. And I looked at it, and the initial models and the initial outputs were like a bit like, mediocre at best. And I didn't really use it, mate. Didn't really use it very much until maybe like 12 months ago. Took a workshop with a guy who really knows what he's talking about, and that really sparked my interest. And I thought, you know what, I'm not going to speak about this. I'm just going to dive into it and learn about it and come out with an opinion when it's fully formed and I can actually back it up. And so it's just evolved from there. And I always find it very interesting. People push back against it. I always question, I'm like, is that out of fear? You know? Not that you don't want to sound analyze people's opinions, but I can't really, in my opinion, it's just about, it's helpful across the board. It's not just about putting out polished, finished copy, because you know what? It can't do that yet. Not to the standards that I have for my clients and lots of copywriters I speak to, but what it can do is it can help with idea generation. It can help with first drafts. It can help with, even doing things like briefs for your clients, messaging points, finding different analogies and angles and research. Like, it is essentially the smartest keenest, cheapest assistant you could
Yep.
ever have to help with all these tasks. So it speeds up the process and it allows you to go deeper a lot faster on things. So just ticked so many boxes. I just can't see how you could possibly be against it.
Yeah.
It's silly, you know?
100%, mate. I think it was something like Andy, who I work alongside, he's always been like pro technical research, obsessed with Notion, obsessed with just like research and shit all the time. And as soon as the AI came into play, mate, he started kind of same as you, fucking around with it, seeing what it could actually do. And it wasn't until only like a couple of months back, probably after your masterclass, where I was speaking to Andy about it, and he was like, "Yeah, I built an integrator GPT," and I was like, "Well, what does that even look like?" And he was like, "Well, I'm basically giving it all the information that obviously we've got with the business. I've gave it all the resources, I've gave it all the recordings. I've been recording every roadmap since we've signed a new client, and it literally has like pretty much everything that we've done over the last 6 months in this like little GPT." And I was like, "What?" So I can just ask that quick. Like I was pretty indifferent, but I was probably more lazy to actually get involved with it. And obviously I think as well, it's like, see when you have someone like Andy who's obsessed with that shit, it's more like, cool, I'll let him get obsessed with it and then I'll come in when the work's been done. Like almost like just utilize it. And even just recently, mate, started to implement more into my schedule, and we're going to be running a webinar in December that's going to be like the first webinar to like the public, essentially, without it actually being to clients. And we've been doing quite a lot of work with Phil on that, and part of this kind of like process was going into the integrator GPT, going through, we've got like 80 to 100 trainings uploaded and in there, and we basically gave it a criteria of what we were looking for, and some of the fucking ideas that came back with me of merging trainings and merging into this kind of like 5-step blueprint or 5-step series that we could segment into one webinar was fucking mental. And then actually off the back of that, like the core trainings we could use, the key resources we could pull from, the structure of the webinar that would run best, the tangible outcomes and success currencies we could market around. It was like this, literally, like you said, like if we had an assistant doing that would have took fucking days, mate, to pull all that shit and get back to us like actual understanding of what the best like potential webinar to put together based on trainings, etc. Just like that, man. A few prompts.
But everything you just said there was around inputs.
Yeah.
And that's the one thing I consistently beat the drum on. It's like the reason that AI works so well for me and my clients is because of the amount of inputs and frameworks that are in place to begin with, but then also having the know-how to go back and forth with it, you know? So like you can't really fast track in terms of like, you know, if you've got an output from AI, you then need to know, well, is that good? Is it bad? Why is it good? Why is it bad? What does it need? You know, what is the angle you're going for in the campaign? There's so much context and frameworks that you need to have as basic knowledge yourself, you know. It can't tell you absolutely everything, you know. So I think that's something that a lot of people miss with AI. They think that they can maybe copy and paste a few different prompts here and there and get to the finished article. And look, maybe you can. Like I'm no AI industry leader. Perhaps you can, but for me, there's a lot of inputs that are required to get a really high standard out as a first draft. And I always say you're probably 80% done when you get that first draft. Then it goes into a Google Doc and you put the final finishing flourishes on it, and then it goes out to the audience. Yeah,
for sure. In terms of like those maybe like key principles when it comes to AI that maybe people overlook, have you got a few in mind? Like you're talking about inputs there, is there anything else that really springs to mind?
Yeah, so I would say that you need one of the best things you can do is develop a style guide, which would be a case of, so for example, I'll give you an example from my clients and the audience work. Obviously, I'm sure a lot of the audience run their own businesses. You can do this for your own business. So my clients fill out an onboarding form. It's got a questionnaire that's all about their market, their offers, and then down to what their high school years were like. You know, because I'm writing for people that have, you know, public facing personal brands. They're out there, so the emails are coming from them, you know. From an individual. So you use that to create the style guide. You know, you put in things like, well, how do you want to come across? Are you direct? Do you like to use strong imagery? What kind of references do you like to use? So for example, for my copy, I like to use a lot of film and book references. So I've got my entire book notes uploaded that they can pull references from. Huge fan of film and cinema. So it's got all my favourite films and TV shows and all that in there.
Yep.
So there's little things like that can then inform it, be like, okay, well, this is the kind of stuff that this person likes. But then there's also another missing part, and it's the things never to do. And this is where, and I've not seen it right, but I have no doubt people have been caught out with this. Now, I use Claude 3.5 Sonnet for my writing because it's just a better standard than ChatGPT for that task for outputting, copy. Don't know. So Claude is run by Anthropic. I don't know what Anthropic I've got going on under the hood, but it's so much better than ChatGPT for those type of outputs, for more creative, I would say, outputs. But Claude makes up results. Claude will make up client results. I'll be like, just like my client Sarah, who made an extra £500,000 with one ad campaign. You're like, whoa, hey, who the fuck's Sarah? And I'll go, oh, sorry about that. I realise my oversight now. That's the response it'll get. So again, you've got to be fucking careful, because if you're not paying close attention, if you're not putting in never do these things, there's other things like it's very cheesy. So for example, for like, say I've got a client in the health and fitness, I've got a lot of clients in the health and fitness space. It would start an email out initially when I started this with, hey fitness warrior, or hey bicep bulger. That was one. Like, wow. So it's like you have to keep track. It's like, I guess, an ongoing conversation. So when it produces something that I never, ever, ever want to see that, you need to then document that and update the style guide. So I'm updating the never do's more than anything else, and that keeps it focused. So I'm not getting any of these, cheesy outputs or just stuff that I don't like, stuff that I don't want in the copy, stuff that has no place in there. It loves bullet points. It'll put bullet points in, 6 different points in the email. You're like, whoa, maximum of 3 bullet points per email. And this is the structure that a bullet point should follow. So you see how we're already, it's not simple as write an email, enter. There's a lot going on. But I would say, like, for people listening, keep track of the never do's, because that is going to keep your outputs at a very high quality, and it means that you're just not repeating yourself all the time. It
also showcases as well that you need the knowledge to be able to have that conversation of where the standard is. Like, it's almost like AI is reporting to you, whereas a lot of people see it as like maybe the other way around.
The AI's in charge.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Like, so when I'm talking about, like, when you're selling something, I'm able to explain to it the principles of copy in a very simple way, because I understand them. I've been doing this 4 years. So I can explain to it, for example, like, it's quite good at giving benefits. It does that quite kind of naturally. The whole thing in copywriting about, speak about benefits, not features, that age-old argument. I'm sure a lot of you already heard that before. But I'm able to then go in and say, look, when you're talking about a benefit, it's really an outcome. So the outcome has to be attached to a tangible area of this audience's life that they care about. And they'll have, obviously, within the project knowledge in Claude or within the document uploaded to ChatGPT, they'll have those outcomes because I've done the research on the audience and I know what those outcomes are and the areas that they care about. So it's able to pull from that. So those are the type of things that you can go back and forth with. But again, if you don't have that knowledge to begin with, if you don't really know your audience very well or know marketing or copy very well, you're not going to be able to go back and forth with it like that. So you're almost kind of beholden to whatever it puts out,
which I completely understand, mate. I think that's something that, like, once again, you need that fucking level of knowledge to be able to know what almost like to get it to stay in the lane that you want it to be in. It's like if you have no outer, like, lines to actually keep it within, it'll just fucking stray mad.
It goes well. But see, on that, don't think that that you need to have the experience or knowledge that I have, or there's thousands of copywriters with way more experience and knowledge than me. It just means that as you gather knowledge, you should be putting it into the AI, because again, it helps it stick better. It's like, so if you read, I encourage, so I've got a newsletter, Storybot newsletter. I encourage every single reader on there, put this email into AI. And then have it summarize it into principles that you can then use going forward. So you're gathering knowledge, but don't just put it in there, read it again and go through it. So it's almost a place that you can. One thing I always used to really annoy me was I spent a lot of time reading books, through like my journey, if you like. Back when I was working behind bars, first book I read, 4-hour work week, very instrumental in my life. But I'd really get annoyed when I used to forget stuff for books or like not apply stuff and be like, well, where did all that knowledge go? In my head a sieve. AI takes care of a lot of that. If you've got notes and insights and ideas and, I've got a note folder in my phone that I'm just jotting down ideas for everything from campaigns to different offers I can run for myself, for my clients. You can capture all that in AI.
Yeah.
And it means it's stickier then, you know, and you can refer to it over and over again. So that's another side of AI that doesn't get spoke about a lot, is that knowledge capture element, you know?
Yeah, because even think about that webinar example I gave earlier on, some of the ones that it came up with were trainings I forgot about.
There you go. Yeah.
Because it's like you're only thinking about, like, for me, the stuff that I get pure giddy about is like marketing and sales side of things. But obviously Andy's much more giddy about systems, the delivery side of things. I've always been obsessed with delivery, but I've started to naturally phase out more. And it's like whatever's front of mind is all you're gonna, like, for me, it's like I pump ideas out whatever's front of mind. And if I'm sitting thinking of fucking different sales frameworks and different fucking marketing like blueprints, and then I pump out a couple of webinar ideas, and 3 of them are referencing like 2 of our best trainings that we know for a fact had the biggest impact. So like a training we had that had the biggest impact was Lawrence, who I had on. I've had on the podcast twice as well. He done a visionary masterclass that helped young entrepreneurs understand more about their vision and what they actually wanted to obtain in life. That has had by far like the biggest impact on clients. Probably one of our top 3, top 5 trainings. Completely fucking forgot about it. But when I was feeding back the webinars and it came up with like 20 different ideas, referencing different trainings that we'd ran, that was like one of the core ones that came up as well, which once again would have fed back from Andy being like, the feedback from this training was X, Y, and Z. It's been really impactful. Which like you're saying, mate, you just forget about shit all the time. Which is mad. What I was curious about was, well, firstly, because it's in what you kind of touched on already with the books side of things, 4-hour work week. Do I go off on a tangent from AI? Because I think there's so much things that we can indulge in there. But from a book perspective, 4-hour work week, any other like top books?
Yeah, a lot. So Mastery by Robert Greene.
Nice.
Read that 3 or 4 times, I would say. Just really speaks to me, you know, mastering your craft and the storytelling, and it's incredible. And I'm a big fan of like history and stuff, so there's a lot of, you know, quirky stories and, you know, different characters from history in there to drive home the point. So it just, for me, it ticks every box in that book. So on its own, it's a masterclass in using storytelling to make a point. But then it's also the actual value in it about, like, you know, mastering your craft and honing your craft and deliberate practice and all of those kind of things is, that's why I've read it 3 or 4 times. And listen, I'll always say this when I recommend Robert Greene, because his other book, his most famous book, 48 Laws of Power, it's heavy going, man. Robert Greene loves that. He's very wordy, you know, and I like that style of writing. So it might be hard going at first for people. I would say if you stick with it, it's really going to be worth it. I would say on the marketing side, every single book that Dave Trott has ever written, I'm a total Dave Trott shill. Mainly Predatory Thinking and 1 + 1 = 3. If you're looking to get better at writing emails, ignore every copywriting book. Just buy Predatory Thinking, 1 + 1 = 3. That'll come to less than 20 quid. And you will see, because all the books are essentially collections of emails. Every story's 2-3 pages long. And it starts out talking about a submarine in World War I, and it ends with a lesson about pricing. So it shows you how that style of copywriting, that storytelling, connecting ideas, absolute masterclass in that. But yeah, I mean, other books like outside of the world of kind of business stuff, very quickly, like stuff like there's a book, an author called John Valent, who writes like narrative non-fiction is a untapped goldmine, you know. And he's got a book about it's called The Tiger, and it's a story about a tiger that torments a village in outer Siberia, kills multiple people, and goes on a revenge tour because a guy tries to shoot him. I mean, I don't know why you wouldn't want to write a book about that. I mean, there's a sales pitch, man. It's a man-eating tiger in Siberia. Sold. Buy the book. He's got another book called The Golden Spruce, which is Tiger's the most famous one because Ryan Holiday recommends Tiger quite a lot. You know, he's a well-known, obviously he does a lot about reading books. But his other book, The Golden Spruce, is about a guy who in the kind of Queen Charlotte Islands in Canada, and he cuts down a tree that's very special to the native population. A guy called Grant Hadwin, who's never been found to this day. He took his canoe and fucked off. And what a character that guy is, man. If you want to know about somebody that's like around the ideas of like obsession, you know, the obsessive ideas of a man and how it can drive him mad, and the crazy stories about a lot of Scotsmen. They went over to the Queen Charlotte Islands and cut down trees. Sorry, I'm not going off on a tangent here, but honestly, like the Golden Spruce, buy it. It's a phenomenal book. So I could talk about books all day long. So let's not go down that rabbit hole.
That sounds good, mate.
Yeah.
What I'm curious about, because one thing I picked up, even just from the masterclass, but also following your content, but even just talking about it to you just now, you're so passionate about that shit. Like, I know you said you'd been doing it for what, 4 years?
Yeah.
What were you doing prior to that?
Dicking about.
Fairs.
Dicking about, man, like a bum. No, not quite. No, I was so dropped out of uni.
Yeah.
Didn't know what I wanted to do. I was working just around the corner from this studio in Regano. So I was in hospitality, working in a restaurant, bar. Then done my personal training qualification. Didn't do anything with it for 2 years. Became the bar manager in there. Got my first taste of like success, if you like, in any way, because I was just floating about as a waiter. And then all of a sudden I was supervisor, I was bar manager, I was doing like cocktail competitions and events and all that stuff. That was my first kind of, as a sober person that's never drank alcohol, so that's always interesting. Anyway, and then PT, online PT, and then January 2020 signed my first retainer client for copywriting and jacked in my personal training immediately, and then that was it. And
I won't say who's the first client, but like, how did the first client even come about?
So the first client was no problem. We worked with them for 4 years. Great company, Hybrid Performance. They were based in Miami at the time. It was, if anybody's listened to me on podcasts before, they'll be like, take a shot. Chris is about to talk about the time he sent 37 emails, but it was 37 emails back and forth, and I got them on a call. Nice. And then closed them, and then got them signed up, and then on a retainer package, and then worked with them for 4 years and increased that retainer over the 4 years, and it was a real life changer, and just to give full context, that was the whole jump in and build wings on the way down type thing. That was sort of it, but I did do that before when I left working in a bar and I was going to become a mobile personal trainer. I didn't have a driving license, I didn't have any savings, and that went tits up within a month. So like I've tasted both sides of that, the second time I did it, I was more of a position of strength. Like I had a decent personal training business. I knew it wasn't what I wanted to do. Got my first retainer client, which was security. Got my second one 2 weeks later. And I was like, okay, I've got 2 retainer clients. That is more money than I've ever seen in my entire fucking life. Let's go all in on this. Let's follow that. And then that's me. Never looked back since.
I love that, bro. And one of the things that comes across as well, like, see, I feel like when you're looking at something that's very, copywriting is like a layer that is, I don't know how to explain it, but it's like, for me, when I was in business for a couple of years, I almost like never heard anyone even speak about copywriting. And then my world got opened up when I met, I think it was Gary Wilson, who came on the podcast. I remember going for dinner with him and we were speaking about paid ads, and he was just like, don't fall for any of the shit that tells you that all the sauce in ads is like all this technical jargon pish around fucking ads manager and target audiences and all that shit. He was like, everything comes down to the copy. And I remember just like that one hard hitting, I was like, what do you mean copy? Like what even is that? And then from there, obviously put me down a huge rabbit hole. But it's one of those things, mate, where it's like, if I was someone, maybe I didn't like, because I became pretty obsessed with it as well, really enjoyed the ad side of things and writing different scripts and copy, etc. And I think if I wasn't someone that was willing to dig into that like realm, then I'd be looking for someone that is just as obsessed as you, just to outsource that shit too. Because you come across as someone that is like so like passionate about it that you love it. Even the way that you just spoke about fucking Tiger and the Golden Spruce, it's like both of those things represent how much you love storytelling. So like, is that always been the case, or is that always like, this is coming from other people that have known me more, they always say you are a storyteller. I wouldn't, it's hard to get a good perspective on yourself, isn't it? Like, but they always said, you've always been a storyteller. I've always been like, just always remember, again, just being I remember stories so well, like they have always had a really profound effect on me. Like I remember when the Green Power Ranger died. I remember when Tommy died. He went away.
I was just like, what the fuck? Like, what is life?
Yeah.
You know, I was 6 or something, and he came back as the White Ranger. So I remember, you know, I was like, I was a wee guy. And don't get me wrong, I'm sure lots of people remember it, but I just always remember being so invested in stories from a very young age, you know. I remember like the first time watching like The Empire Strikes Back and just being like, oh, what? Like, that's his dad and he just cut his hand off. Like, what is going on? You know, so I remember all these moments, and I think that's probably something to do with it, you know. Yeah. And then I've always just loved, like, then when you find out, like, oh, I can write my own stories. Yeah. I can create my own stories and my own worlds and my own. So yeah, it's always been something. And then obviously you get to a stage where you only think growing up, like, oh, well, you need to be a novelist, you need to be a writer, you know. But then you find this other world. And I've always loved marketing. I've always loved like brands. I've always been into like really cool brands. Like my stepdad's quite a big influence in that way because he's always been like a cool guy. He's always like, there's always like copies of GQ lying around the house. So I think like the combination of those two things, like reading more about brands, you know, luxury brands and all these different things and how they were founded and the founders and the creation of whatever it was they were, their brand stood for. I think the kind of melding of those two worlds then brought me to copywriting. Now, obviously that's the kind of nice flowery side of it. The other side was, I need to make money. I'm 27. I need to get my finger at my arse here. You know, I've got things I want to do. So there's definitely the kind of cold hard fact side of it as well. But yeah, no, honestly, mate, I love it. I could talk about it all day. I just love. It's just that the human connection you get with it. I love how you can demonstrate powerful points to people. Without just dumping a whole load of information on them and actually entertain them and hold their attention and just give them a little bit of escapism as well, you know. So yeah, always been obsessed with all things storytelling, like I say, like film, books, TV, just obsessed with it. Which
again, it's like comes back to like one of the components recently or gets talked about often is the fact that like attention nowadays obviously being a fucking I don't know, scarce commodity is the right phrase, but like garner attention is so fucking important to be able to generate cash, have a huge impact in the world, etc. But also one of the big components is distractions as well. And as times went on as well, obviously the world's kind of evolved into this like short form fucking 30-second reels that have an average watch time of 6 seconds, and that's the only piece of content you put out that day. Whereas also within the copywriting world, I mean, some of the emails that I've seen you whip up that maybe you'll post stuff on your stories about them, or when you're speaking about in the masterclass, it's like you're garnering attention for like a good fucking few minutes, if not longer, in some of the longer form shit, because I imagine you probably whip up some mental things. But it's like to garner attention for that long, mate, in this day and age where people can't help but scroll TikTok, can't help but fucking go on Instagram, is like something to be seriously fucking admired, I think. Yeah, I appreciate. I think the other thing that goes along with attention as well, though, is intent. Yeah, you know, attention is absolutely part of it, but it's like when you actually think about it, the reason that people scroll on TikTok so much is because it's actually quite easy to get attention. I mean, at the initial point of grabbing attention, you know, you can put up a reel. Is it POV? How I made $1 million in 1 month. That's going to get attention. Yeah. Now, whether the intent follows through with that, that's a whole other story. Yeah. So I think that's where the copywriting piece comes in, because that is how you can start to move people along towards the higher intent side of the scale and start bringing them into your world where you have more of their kind of one-on-one attention. So again, that kind of looks like if you're moving people from your socials to your email list, you know, if you're moving people from your email list to your YouTube, you know, and their watch time's going up, and you know they're opening more and more of your emails, are spending more and more time with you. So yeah, the attention piece is super important, but I also always make sure that comes along with the intent, because like you can get, again, attention without intent it's cheap, isn't it? You know, like and if all you think about is attention, I think that's when you start getting into clickbait territory. And look, you've got to play the game. Like I've always said, I'm not one of these new age. See people that talk about like ethical marketing. That's a show don't tell quality. I've spoken about this before, so I'm not above like you've got to get attention. You've got to play the game. You've got to use hooks, and you've got to grab people's attention. But can you follow up with kind of nurturing their intent and be like, do you want to come into this world a bit deeper and find out more? You know, do you want the real sauce? Do you want the real insights? I think that's the missing piece for a lot of people. They can get that attention part right, but
Then when it comes to moving people along to somewhere where they can actually, like you say, like get a sale or turn them into a lead or get them on the phone or get them to opt into something, then they're a bit like, I don't really know how to do that, you know? So yeah, that's often the missing piece.
Yeah, which makes a lot of sense, mate. How do you keep up, like get people engaged in longer form content? Do you have any like key principles? Do you have any, or like emails just in general?
Yeah, I think it starts with how you approach the email, like from like a, I'll say a mindset point of view, right? And don't get me wrong, I'm not going to get like all deep and meaningful, right? I know it's an email, but like if you approach it from the point of view of like, I need to entertain this person, you know, that's a huge part of it, and that's something I learned maybe a couple of years ago, and ever since I've applied that, people, for my clients and myself, it's just been performance increases across the board. So like, what does entertainment then look like? And I'm not saying you turn into the class clown, but entertainment is when you can, you know, get your personality across, when you can tell stories, when you can give people an element of escapism in their day, make them feel something, you know, give them things that are relevant to their situation, to their desires, to the outcomes that they're chasing. I know that might sound like just a big kind of brain dump, but like that's what you're looking to do there. When you're again, attention and intent. It's those things when you put yourself in the shoes of your audience, right? And I always like to think of like, what is, whether it's my audience or my clients, like what are they actually physically doing when that email hits their inbox? That's a really good exercise, mental exercise too, because do you know what? They're sitting on the train, they're fucked off after a shite day at work, and they just can't be arsed, and then it's their phone buzzes, and they look, and it's the notification. I mean, get granular with it. The notification on their home screen, Gmail, email, Chris Burns, subject line, subheadline, like what, you know, what's going on, you know, what's going on in their daily life, and apply that to whatever your audience is doing. Like, so say for example, I'm doing a bit of guesswork here, but for your audience, young entrepreneurs, scrambling about doing 100 different things at once. You know, they've got like, you know, they've got their monitor up, they've got a phone, they've got a laptop, they're doing all these different things. They've probably half watched a training, they've got a book, they've got a journal on their desk, they're scrambling about a little bit, ping, email comes up from Young and Lazy. Right. What's going to take them out of that chaos and into your email? And another part of that is your reputation with them. Because let's be real, if you're known for sending shite emails, no one's going to read your emails. And I know that sounds like a really obvious thing to say, right? But far too many shite hawk copywriters make it out that it's really, just send an email and you print money. Sorry, not the case. Maybe in 2012, but not anymore. You have to be showing up with something that's actually relevant and people are going to be willing to spend their time on, rather than just like punting out any old email. So volume and reputation play a key part in that, because they know they're coming and they're going to feel something. They're going to be like, yeah, do you know what? I'm glad I spent my time reading that email. Rather than, you know, it was just another. Now, and I'm a big believer, we can get into this if you want, I'm a big believer you should sell in every email. Every email should have a sales pitch, and I'm all for that. But what precedes the sales pitch? You know, is it just watered down shite that they could find anywhere, or business platitudes that I've heard 100 times before, or are you showing up with something different and unique and entertaining and something that's worth their time? You know?
I love that, bro. So like, if you give us a bit of an insight on that, then like, what's the? Because one of the questions I asked you when we were outside was like, how many emails we send a week for your clients? And I was like, what, like 1 or 2, 2 or 3, and you were like 5 to 7, and I was like, what? That's fucking mental. So like, what is like the structure of like the week for a client, for example? And I know each client will have a different ICP. I understand that, but just a rough gauge.
So, right, what's the best way to say this? So so we're trying to. We're always trying, like I said, to show up with something that's got a mix of entertainment, insights, because insights position the client as an authority, and something that shifts people's beliefs around a challenge or an outcome that they're after. You know, if you can shift people's belief with your copy and your persuasion, you're in their head. You know, so a good example of that would be like Dan Coe, very big on Twitter, very big in the kind of business space. He was very big on the kind of one-person business model, the 4-hour workday. That's an example of shifting beliefs
Yeah.
It's also a good example of how at the very top level, you need to be a little bit more concise and borderline clickbaity, because you know what? You're not changing human nature.
Yeah.
A lot of people like to moan about it, but last time I checked, we've not changed a lot in a very long time.
Yeah.
You know? So that's the kind of things that tap into human nature very well. So that kind of belief shifting. So that's what we're looking to do with each email, essentially. And then it's a case of, again, I don't want to be that guy's, but context. But that's what every email's looking to do. And then it's just a case of, okay, well, you need to consider what have my clients got going on. Well, all my clients have multiple offers. So it's easier to send multiple emails because they've got different angles in them. They've got different, sales arguments. It's not the same thing all the time. Now, I'm not saying that I've got clients sometimes it's just, say it's a coaching offer. You're sending the same offer all the time.
Yeah.
That's where list growth's a little bit more important.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're just trying to tie in with, well, what is it my client is actually looking to achieve in terms of like their growth? Like what program are they trying to promote? Where are they looking to get growth? What's their margins like on this product or this service? So there's all that kind of back end stuff that you need to work in as well. But I've got a tendency to ramble on these things. Just want to make sure that's clear. We're just looking to give entertainment, insights, and shift beliefs. That's what we're trying to do with each campaign.
Yeah, which makes a lot of sense, mate. And when on the belief point, because that was one thing that I learned when I went through Alex Becker's program, and when you done the masterclass, you spoke quite heavily about it, which I loved, and I think that was a huge point for me that actually shifted my beliefs as well. And I think I think a lot of individuals maybe won't understand that fully. So maybe if we do like a little exercise around this, right? I know you can shift my belief on something. So I remember I done an email. I had one of my mates, Ollie, he was running some like cold email campaigns and stuff like that, just to test and see if we could get some deals through the door through cold email. We tried a few, our open rates were decent, but our reply rates were quite poor. And I said to him, look, let me have a crack at writing some copy for an email, because I write good copy for ads, etc. Let me just have a crack at just doing it. And I also, within that email, I remember just sitting that day, I'd crafted one, Ollie had sent it out, done a good test batch, couple of thousand. Replies were kind of meh as well. I then done another one, but this one I was sitting down, mate, I remember just thinking, I'm going to be completely my fucking self in this email. Like, I'm literally going to leave like nothing unchained. I'm going to swear in it. I'm going to take the piss a bit. But at the bottom line, there's going to be an ask there, and it's going to be to get them taking the next step forward within our buyer journey, which was never like try to sell. It was some sort of free value that we wanted to give. And I remember we sent out a test batch, and we got more replies to that email. But I remember one of the replies, which then put me off doing it further, almost like probably gave me a flashback to like school, was a guy came back and he was like, I actually can't believe this fucking email, and I can't believe that you've even sent something like this to a bunch of individuals. So much so that I've showed my full office room and we're all sitting here laughing at it. And off the back of that, like, I just wanted to let you know how ridiculous this is, and how the fact that you're never going to get any sales through an email of this nature. Now, when I received that email back and Ollie actually texted me, was like, got quite a mad reply by me, mate. I wouldn't even read it if I was you, because obviously he's done email marketing for a good couple of years. So he was like, yeah, shit like that all the time. Like, don't worry about it. And I remember at the time feeling super fucking embarrassed and feeling like I'd stepped into like, I'm going to be my fucking true authentic self. I'm going to put it out there. And it felt like it got shot down. And it probably reminded me of like school. Now, it's still a good couple of years ago now. But in hindsight, I remember when I was sitting on a call with Phil, we wanted to launch with something new coming, which I think it'll be out by the time this episode's out, is Young Entrepreneur Secrets, which is going to be an email value that's going to come through email. It's going to be two emails a week, alongside going to put longer form content to weekly as well. And I remember I was on a call with Phil and he was like, by the way, you guys got an email list? And I was like, nah. And he was like, your longer form content, like what's the script there? I was like, I do fortnightly episodes on a podcast. I was like, okay. It's like, so you're literally like not tapping into probably like two of the biggest components of building trust in this day and age is longer form, and you aren't doing it. Like, why? And also off the back of that, I just like fucking got straight into building out the emails, what we wanted to offer from value perspective, coming up with the brand name, etc., and just sinking into it. But see, upon reflection, probably that couple of year window, I probably in the back of my mind, that fucking reply.
Right.
And I guess the belief around it, that if you were to shift my belief around it, would be to probably tell me how fucking bullshit, like, not bullshit, but why am I even getting like offended by that, or even stopping email off the back of it? And what you could easily say is probably along the lines of the fact that it's just part of the fucking game, and you're going to get people who are going to reply with shit like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that could be part of it. But here's what I would do. Shifting beliefs requires you to step out of the situation and zoom out. So let's zoom out. You are your true authentic self. Would you say that every single person in the world who got to know, so let's imagine every single person in the world got to know who you are. Would you say they were going to like you?
Nah.
Would you say some people would hate you?
Potentially.
Yeah. Would you say some people would really, really like you and be so connected to you, like you're my guy?
I'd hope so.
Who would you focus on?
Them.
Yeah. Exactly. Right? That's step one.
Yeah.
So I've shifted the belief around that.
Yeah, for sure.
But now we need to turn a negative into a positive. That is a huge marketing opportunity right there, because people love drama and they love conflict. And that's nothing to do with marketing. That's human nature. Think about all the, again, let's go back to think about the TV programs we love, you know, like Game of Thrones. Think about the first 5 seasons. Let's not talk about the last 3. Think about the drama and the conflict in that, right? And you'll have people will have their own version of it, like any show you want, Suits, whatever it is. So what you could have done there was screenshotted that email, turned it into an ad, and then I got an opt-in and saying, opt into this to see my reply. My reply would have been, let's call the guy Malcolm. He sounds like a Malcolm. No offence to any Malcolms watching, right? And I said, Malcolm, I just want you to know how much I love your reply. It has given me endless energy to send out even more emails and build my success off of your bitterness. And would you mind sending me your office address so I can print off all future emails, send them to your office so you can roll them up and shove them up your arse sideways? Right? That would be the reply. Something along those lines, right? I've had those situations before, by the way. And that would be my reply. So you can imagine how if you would put that on social media, like, do you want to see my response to this guy? Quick opt-in, simple automation setup. This was the response. But then you could also turn it into a lesson. How many lessons could you teach from that? You could say the lesson I've just taught you, but the belief, not taught you, you knew that already, but you know what I mean? The belief shifting, then you could take that 100 different ways. For your audience especially. They're always going to encounter people like that, aren't they? So never waste a good drama or good conflict, you know? Like I had a guy reply to one of my emails. My emails are a bit of a mix. Like I've got like the kind of marketing, copywriting side. I've also got more of the kind of personal brand side. I've got a newsletter called Read, Write, Lift, where I give like a insight from a book, a journaling prompt, and then some sort of like lifting insight. Bit of fun, bit lighthearted. And a guy responded, just basically say, I cannot believe you send this stuff out. I signed up to get marketing insights, and all you do is talk about lifting weights. And he said, to quote Stephen Pressman, nobody wants to read your shit. And his name was Ed, by the way. And I came back to him and says, thanks, Ed. By the way, it's Stephen Pressfield, you tit. And I'm sending out a case study tomorrow on how I ran a £187,000 organic launch for my client. You will not see this because I have deleted you from my email list. I shared that in my story, and I got, 20, 25 subs off the back of it. So you see, that's a very similar situation there. But I was a bit more longer on the tooth, a bit more kind of, I've been in this very same situation before, where I had the similar reaction to you, where a guy who I thought was a big player in the industry totally slated an email I sent publicly in a Facebook group, and I had a very similar reaction. But I did go back up in the comments. But anyway, so is that like...
Yeah, 100%, 100%. Because I guess the thought process, like, couple of things on this is, like, people will connect more with your vulnerabilities. I've never spoken about that before, like, ever. And also, when you're saying about shifting beliefs, you shifting that belief for me, say you were to do that in an email format, right? And maybe the headline was, I don't know, fucking... have you ever had a Malcolm reply to your email with absolute shit or something like that? Better call
the whole office was laughing at me.
Yeah, something like that.
That's the subject line.
And it's like, say I was to receive an email like that from yourself, knowing that I'd experienced that, and then you shifted that belief through that exact story, how engaged I would then be in the rest of the emails would probably be fucking ridiculous. I'd probably set an alarm for every fucking email and like make sure it's coming on board. So I felt like I knew, because I actually wrote it down quite early on about that story, because I was wondering if we could plug it in somewhere.
Yeah.
And I think shifting beliefs is a huge component of getting people to engage. And I also think it's a great way of showcasing the level of expertise that you've got. The fact you've been able to take that, construct that into like 3 key points, and also give an actionable email back that was so full of patter that it was fucking brilliant to hear. Once again, just displays like the level of expertise you've got, mate, which is class.
I appreciate it. Thank you. That was you gave me a very good example. I was grinning as you were saying it, because I knew exactly what I was going to respond to. But see, there's another way. If you don't mind, just to give another example of how you can like shift beliefs. So another way you can do it, and this is kind of probably more well known in marketing, is like give like kind of titles to things and names to certain things you have, whether it's like a process or a mindset sort of thing. So I'll give you an example from one of my newsletters. Again, this wasn't a marketing newsletter necessarily, but I sent one of my most popular Savage Saturday emails, which is again is more about like kind of personal development. It was titled Auto Response Syndrome, and I spoke about a specific situation I was in where I was down the rugby club, and a guy who my dad played rugby with. And it was the day we won the league. Just wanted to plug that. Day we won the league. And he nudged me. I was there with my wife, who was at that point my fiance, and he nudged me and he went, "Is that your bird?" And I went, "That's Gillian, my fiance." And he went, "Ah." And then he took a sip of his beer and he went, "Everything goes downhill after you get married." And I went, "I don't think it does. I can't wait to get married." And the point I made in the email was the automatic response in that situation would have been, "That's the missus, mate. Oh, I know, tell me about it, getting married. Oh, no, she'll be pure moaning at me all day long." Yeah. I don't believe that. But the auto response in that is just to go along with the energy that he's putting out in the conversation. But something that I've been quite big on the past maybe 3-4, because I would have done that in the past. Something I've been quite big on, because again, personal development's a big thing. I'm sure everybody that watches this is huge for them as well. It's like, don't go along with that shit. You know, so again, that's a way you can kind of shift beliefs, is like if you can take a concept and like name it and show how it happens in that's a very mundane scenario. That's another thing. Nothing has to be like super fancy or like these big grand stories that you would maybe find in a novel. That is me down the rugby club, my dad's steaming pal. It's not exactly you know going to win a Pulitzer, but it's a very relatable scenario. People have been there before, you know, they've been there, they've got this kind of acquaintance and they're kind of hitting out with some shit. And you're just like, aye, going along with it, you know. And I think that's another way you can shift beliefs around things, if you can take your concepts and the way you think about things differently, give it a little name, because you've got to get the marketing in there, give it a little name, a little hook, and then show people how it actually plays out in a very kind of real scenario. Yeah,
I love that, bro. I fucking love that. That was such a good. That was like risky doing that off the dome, mate. But to fucking, I feel like it was a perfect scenario to do. So
see the panic in your eyes there. Tell them, edit.
Nah, you crushed that, bro. And I think that'll give people a great understanding, mate. Because for me, it took. I mean, like Becker literally had pretty much like a full like module on it, like to really teach people how to understand and also how to implement it within their own business. So it's like it needs real time examples, that shift. Because if people don't understand how to take their own ICP and shift beliefs that they've got, which is another big component as well. Remember we spoke, it's like big part of Becker's frameworks was a double diamond framework, which was taking people's beliefs, negative or positive, and shifting them in a way that benefits them, but doing that off the back of whatever pains they've got. So outlining clear pains that they've got, being able to take them, whether it's a negative belief or a positive belief around that pain, and shifting it towards a belief that serves his offer, his product, his service, whatever it was. And it was very hard for me to understand initially before I had that framework, or before I had an example of how to apply that to my business.
Yeah.
Because you just hear shift beliefs and you're like,
what does that mean?
Yeah. What does that mean?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was a fucking great example, mate. I fucking love that shit. What I was curious about, we spoke outside about like Justin Welch, for example. He has like a big kind of like brand around building this like $10 million company. Or whatever.
Yeah.
Obviously you've obviously your fiance worked with you, but as of like right now, it's just you at the moment. What I was so curious about was that like I knew that you had a good amount of like high level clients, so I was like, how the fuck are you like doing all that shit? And I don't know if a day and a half. Do you want to go into that kind of discussion?
Yeah. So, all my clients get obviously weekly newsletters. That's the kind of bread and butter.
Yeah.
And like I was saying to you outside, I've been doing this. I've been sending, I would say, a minimum 15 to 20 newsletters a week for 4 years.
Yeah.
And that's the low end, you know. Now we're up to, you could be 30, 40 a week or something. And all of those newsletters get written, edited and scheduled in about a day and a half. And I have, do you know what? I've been doing that for a while, and I would honestly even say maybe 4 months ago I would have been hesitant to say that publicly. Just because I don't want the perception to be that it's rushed, because it's not. Because again, that's the day and a half side that you own, that people focus on. What is going into that is, and I'm always very honest with my strengths and weaknesses. I'm very creative when it comes to ideas and angles. I see them everywhere. I'm taking notes constantly. Even like I'll go out a 40-minute walk with my daughter in the pram, and I'll see 3 or 4 different things. I'm like, that's an email, that's an email, that's an email. I'm always reading different things. I'm reading a wide variety of like different sources, from books to newsletters to everything. Watching TV at night, there'll be something on the telly. Yep, that's an email. So the idea gathering process is very much like ongoing. Also, I've worked with clients for, like, my average retention rate's like over 18 months with clients, you know, so I am deeply ingrained in who they are. You know, I'll send clients, and I'll send emails to my clients and be like, how did you know I was thinking about that? And I'm like, well, I didn't. I've just been writing for you for so long that I know how you would approach this certain scenario or whatever. So yeah, that all goes on. And then, so that means when I wake up Monday morning, 2 cans of White Monster, pint of Iron Brew, litre of water, Eric Pritz on loop, and just go to town.
Just having it.
Yeah, obviously using AI for different things, but normally the very rough first drafts are done on a Friday. I'll let them sit over the weekend, so when I go in on the Monday, there's some rough first drafts there, or even just sections of different pieces, and then I'll go in, I tidy them up, and then they go back and forth with the AI, and then by Tuesday it's ready for an assistant Kat to go in and schedule across all their clients. And then I just take the rest of the week off. I'm obviously joking, I don't. Then obviously I'm on to the higher level stuff, because what you find after being in this game for a while is, for our clients especially, the newsletters are essential, but they're not massive needle movers. You know, they get sales. They're so essential for nurturing that relationship, so they'll lead into like bigger launches or bigger sales targets and stuff. But there are things, you know, like top of funnel ads. There's like sales pages that can be tweaked. There's VSL scripts to write. I've got a couple of like clients who I'm in a more CMO role with, so that's more like strategy, long term, looking at margins, looking at big launches. So that's what the rest of the week's spent on. Because again, that's the big needle movers in the market, and you know, that's what's going to bring them huge ROI, and that's ultimately my job. You know,
that's incredible, bro. How many clients do you have just now?
7.
Because one of the questions I was going to ask was like, how do you? Because when you were speaking about like the kind of like CMO like role plus like the you know, large amount of emails you're doing per client, it was almost getting to a stage as well where if you're getting involved in areas like you said, VSL scripts, writing copy for funnels, it's almost like, how the fuck do you fit that all into a week when it's just you? But obviously if you're utilizing AI, but also the main thing I'm taking from this as well is that like you're someone that like is seriously like playing into your strengths. Like you're seriously playing into fucking like the idea generation side of things, for example. It's like there's so many people, mate, that will take fucking like weeks to come up with a couple of ideas to write some content around. Whereas if you're pumping 4 or 5 out just when I walk, it's like, it's mental. It is.
Like, it's just, and I again, being just completely frank about it, I've taught idea generation before. I've broken it down as best I can. I've actually got really good feedback on a few presentations I've done. But when I look at it, I'm still like, it's still not how I do things, because you can't actually really explain what's bubbling up from your subconscious. Like, if I could do that, I wouldn't be sitting here right now. No offense, right? I wouldn't be sitting here. I'd probably be, I don't know, in some mansion somewhere. If I could explain what's going on in the subconscious, you know, I'd be, God knows what I'd be up to. But yeah, it's one of those things. It's just, like you say, play your strengths. It's a natural strength of mine. I don't know if it's just obviously 4 years as well doing it, you know. And I've always offered like newsletter services as part of my retainer packages, so I've just been used to that, getting those reps in. And yeah, like I said, I'll be out if I'm out a walk or whatever. Sometimes I'll have a podcast in or music, and I've got to pause it because I'm like, ideas are starting to come to me right now. Like for example, I was at an overnight with my wife and my daughter over the past couple of days, and we were my wife and my daughter were having a nap, and I was sitting there, and just out of nowhere, like 15 ideas came to me for newsletters, and I counted them. I was like, there's 15 ideas there for a mixture of my newsletters and my clients. I don't want to sound remotely arrogant. I can't teach that. I can't teach how my brain works. You know, some people are just like, well, I just do that. You know, that's part of it. That's a bit more of a strength. But yeah, that's a huge part of my workflow. So you always want to get that in context. It's not like I'm just sitting down and rattling out, you know, however many emails I write a week in a day and a half. Because again, it varies sometimes, you know, varies the amount that we send for clients. We've got a baseline of like, I would say the baseline for clients is like 3. But then if I spot an opportunity, so say there's a segment of the email list, I'm like, this campaign's going to absolutely bang for this segment of people. Then that campaign's going out. We don't set a limit on how many campaigns we send out, basically.
I love that, bro. I think I've seen it on your story as well. The importance of never sitting down without ideas to write content.
Oh, don't do that. Don't do that. That's the worst thing you can do. Yeah, it is. It's terrible. That blinking cursor just makes you look like an absolute muppet. You know, it is. It's just ideas. At least for me, anyway. You're not in the right kind of frame of mind when you're under pressure. You know, I need an idea especially for something like an email. You can maybe pull it out for like, say, it's a bit more kind of like, you know, top of mind. Say like it's a post on your stories or something you can just kind of hash out. You know, what's on top of your mind. Like, okay, that'll do. Not that I'm encouraging you to do that, but you can get away with that. But if it's something like an email, if you sit down, and especially if I'm not going to do that, and this is my career and my craft. If you're writing emails for your business, then you're not a full-time copywriter. So you should absolutely have to sit down with just don't sit down before, honestly, like go a walk or stay away from your desk, go sit somewhere else in your office, somewhere else in your house, and let some ideas come to you, you know, because that you're just going to end up getting so frustrated, which will knock on to the rest of your day.
I think I write all my content for like LinkedIn, usually 5 to 6 posts a week. And at any point I've sat down, maybe like the week's got away from me, I've not taken notes of any ideas throughout the week. At any point I sit down, it doubles, if not triples, the amount of time it takes. If I'm sitting down without any ideas, I'm scrolling through photos and I'm scrolling through what I've done that week and I'm scrolling through my calendar, and it's like, I'm getting inspiration in those moments, but it's like the difference compared to, so like on Sunday there, sat down, I had 25 different ideas, and also because we had the trip to Barca. Oh yeah. We had basically what I had the boys do was after every business's like segment, they put in their top lesson from that segment. Right. So I was able to go through the Immortals chat and look at all the top lessons that everyone had taken from it, which gave me like, what, fucking 50, 60 ideas. Yeah. And the mad thing is as well, so when you sit down with, for me, I think I'd kind of cornered it down to like 25, 30 ideas. You start to realise like the power in picking out like the top ideas that make it so easy to flow into content. Because as well, man, if you're sitting down with just 6 ideas, you've got 6 pieces of content to write. Sometimes when you sit down, they just don't even fucking flow, and you're like banging your head against the wall trying to get them to work as well. You need more ideas than there are content slots, if you like, because you sometimes come down and you go to, and this is a very quick point on like the note taking process of like. So sometimes that can seem like a lot of work. It's like, oh, I'm always working on it. No, it's just a habit that you build over time. We've all got habits, good and bad. A good habit to get into is if an idea pops into your head, and chances are, like, all business owners are watching this, when do you not think about your business? Right, you're always thinking about your business, aren't you? So if you have an idea, just get in the habit of pull your phone out, notes app, bash it down. That's it done. But when you take it down, try to see it out to, like, I'm not saying see it out to this like full concept in terms of like write the whole email, but write the idea and what it connects to, or what point you need to make. Because I made that mistake early on when I started the kind of note taking habit. I'd go back and I'm like, what the fuck does that mean? You know, just get a note from like, you know, some TV show, or, you know, is like scene in Suits episode 7. I'm like, what? I don't know what that is. Like, so, but if now there's always like a couple of lines after it, like, I think this relates to XYZ, and then that means when you come back to it, at least you've got the framework there. Like, all right, okay, I remember what I was thinking at the time, because your memory's not reliable. You might think, because at the time, because sometimes you have a really good idea, you're like, oh, that's brilliant, that's amazing, and you're like, I'll definitely remember this. No, you won't. Trust me, believe me, I've been there, done that. Don't make the same mistake. So always see that note out, flesh it out as much as you can. Yeah, I was literally just about to say that. The amount of times I've been like, this is so fucking good, man. There's no way I do not forget this. I sit down and I'm like, nah. You're like, what was that again? It's brutal, mate. It's brutal. It's brutal. But what's the kind of like plans moving forward? Also, like the kind of early point that we touched on there was that you're essentially run the business at the moment with maybe one individual
Yep.
Alongside you. Are you wanting to scale it to the fucking heavens? Are you wanting to bring on team? Are you wanting to just like...
No, I really just want to start building out my kind of, I know it's became the buzzword recently, but the kind of personal brand side of things. I've got a few, it's not necessarily going to be related to marketing and copywriting. I've got a few different ideas around like kind of men's lifestyle, personal development. I think there's a little bit of a kind of crossover there that I've found that I can tap into. And I just want to actually test my mettle in building a brand, you know, because I've read about it so much. I talk about it a lot. I'm like, I'd rather... I know, again, it might sound cliche, I'd rather build in public. I'd rather actually have a go at it and have it as a little kind of, initially a creative outlet, but it's definitely something I'm going to turn into a proper business and a proper brand that I can scale. In terms of the copywriting side of things, I mean, you know, that's always going to be the bread and butter. It's always going to be something that I'm looking to get better at, and that's why I took on the CMO roles for clients and things like that to take more responsibility on. But I would say that, not that I'm getting complacent, but it's in a very good place, you know. But also, what I'm optimizing for is family. You know, I'm a big believer. Again, one of the concepts I have is like is constraints based growth. It's like I want to have a maximum time with my family, so I'm not working every weekend. I'm not working till 9 o'clock at night. I've never missed a bath time with Esme, and I never will. But but I'm also a filthy capitalist. So what is the maximum amount of money I can earn with that constraint in place? See what I mean? You know, and I think that's how I approach the vision for my future.
I love the concept of constraints-based growth, mate, because I think it's something that like your time just expands. If you give it infinite like amount of time, the amount of shit the amount of times you twiddle your thumbs, fucking about, is mental. I've
also, like, for me, again, I'm 33, daughter's 8 months old. It's like I've listened to enough personal development stuff, podcasts, you name it. Like I said, like I was the 4-hour work week when I was 22, so I've been listening to this stuff for a long time, and I've heard too many dusty old guys talk about how I just wish I had my time back with my kids. And it's like, if I ignore all that advice, I am a moron. And nobody wants to be a moron. And look, I get it. This isn't a judgment on anybody that chooses the other side, chooses to be like, well, do you know what? I'm going to scale this thing to the fucking moon. I think all power to you. I think we need people like that in the world. And I'm not saying you're going to have a bad relationship with your kids or anything. This is just me, what I'm optimizing for. It's maximum family time, maximum freedom, maximum earnings. What is the max based on that central principle of like, I'm being a fully present, engaged, always there father. How can I take everything else as far as I possibly can without losing that? So I think once I got clear on that, things became a lot simpler and a lot more motivating. Because listen, when maybe 2 years ago, I was all in on the agency life. I was like, I had a first copywriter. I'm like, I'm going to have a 7-figure agency. I'm going to be doing this and I'm going to be doing that. And now I couldn't get any worse. Really couldn't get any worse for me, for my goals. So it is right, having kids does change you quite a lot.
I was going to ask, has that been the main component of change?
It's massive driver. Just there's nothing better than being a dad. There's nothing better than, I always say this, like when Esme was born, I was in the theatre, and when the first time I laid eyes on her, I just felt like something surged through my body. And I'm not a woo-woo guy, but I felt like something was coursing through my veins. Maybe it was just adrenaline, I don't know, but it felt, listen, I'm a lifelong sober, teetotal, never touched a drug, but I don't know, that must be the first hit of heroin, feels like, man, because I was flying. So it changes you significantly. You see the world very, very, very differently when those little ones come along, I tell you that.
That's incredible, bro. There's you've mentioned that twice now, the teetotal. Is there a story behind that?
There is. So I never really got into it. So, as you know, in our part of the world, people drink at 14, 15, you would say, right? If they're late bloomers. My mate started drinking about 15, I would say, 14, 15 years old. I just never got into it. I was really into rugby. remember my dad saying to me, like, if you want to make something of this, like, you know, don't be that guy. And that, I don't want anybody to get from that I'd ever had a chance of making it, because I didn't, right? But my delusional 15-year-old self thought I did. And then, so that kind of maybe kept me away from it initially. And then the longer I went without it, I just realised I just don't want to do this. And I don't know, again, it's just something that was kind of in me already. Like, one thing is, to make clear here, is there's no willpower involved in this. I need willpower to not eat ice cream every night.
Yeah. Right.
Because I have the biggest sweet tooth in the world, right?
Yeah.
So for me, that's where that bit with booze and things, there's no attraction.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I just saw things like, that sounds like dead sinister. It's not. Just like working in hospitality, you just, you see the same guy coming in every day and he has 4 or 5 pints and you're like, that's not great, is it?
Yeah.
And I always seen the negative side. I always seen like the negative side of it, again, not in a judgmental way. And I didn't miss out on anything, because I remember making a conscious, as much as I was an idiot, as every 18-year-old boy is, right? Yeah. No 18-year-old boy's got his anything figured out. But I remember saying, like, I'm not going to miss out on anything. So I've done Malia, Magaluf, rugby tours, all sober, all stone cold sober. So I didn't miss out on anything like that. I think that really helped me bring me out socially as well and develop my socials, because I mean, I've not got a social lubricant here. I'm not 5 vodkas deep. Yeah. I'm 5 Diet Cokes deep, and I'm going to have to talk to people and socialise and do all that. So I think that was a big help for me. But yeah, mate, it's just never been in the long, on trust people, anybody else, the longer you go, the more you realise, like, I don't need that, I think it's way more common now though.
Way more
like,
common.
I've got younger brothers. My brothers are 21 and 19.
Yep.
Sorry, 21 and 18, and they just, they're just not big drinkers. Not teetotal, but they're just not mad for it, It's whereas when I was young, it was like, Jesus, man, people were just full of it, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So
I think it's you're absolutely bang on the money. Usually, a lot of the time, so like for me, it was the longer I went. So it was pre-COVID was the last time I had like a drink, and it was like the longer and longer I went, the more I was like, you really don't need this shit at all. Because you get into the, like, there's so many depreciating returns of drinking that like isn't even thought about beyond the initial like drinking phase or like the initial hangover. So for me, when I was competing in the Call of Duty stuff, it was like I would go out and drink on the Friday, then I'd have a tournament on the Sunday, and like I'd recover on the Saturday, but on the Sunday I'd still be lagging. I'd still be like not cognitively like there at all. And it was having such a detrimental effect knock on as time went on. And as well, I think big turning point for me too was like I started just like being sick regularly when I was drinking as well.
Oh, really?
It was like when that never used to happen at all. And then once again, it's like the return that you start to like really fucking think about like what you're actually doing this for, which is like a 3-hour, 4-hour buzz.
Yeah.
To then have like 3 days of you just being fucked, man.
Yeah. Like it's not worth it, is it? No. It's not. I like you say, you get that perspective when the longer you go without it. But it's funny though. I don't know if you might find this more than me, because you did drink and now you don't drink. But like, see, when people find out for the first time, they always have like, there's usually like 3 things. So when they find out that you're teetotal, it's not like, did you have a wee problem? Like, no. And then like, all right, okay. And like, are you like religious? And like, no, I'm not. No, I just don't drink. And then there's always like an angle. Yeah. There's always some sort of angle of being like, why do you not do this? This is so bizarre to me, So you've always got to kind of navigate that kind of like minefield of like different questions. Which I get it. Obviously it's no issue, but yeah, it's interesting. But I think it's probably helped me over the years as well.
100%,
just staying clear, staying healthy.
I like the social aspect of it. Like, see what you said in regards to like forcing yourself. Like, see when I changed from drinking, like I can't remember what I used to drink, mate, like vodka lemonade or something. See when I shifted from that to a soda water and lime, you realise like how good your social skills need to fucking be to last like 1 o'clock in the morning.
Oh yeah.
Because everyone's getting more mangled and you're getting more. For me, it got to a stage where I just get more frustrated.
Yeah.
Fucking hell, man! Like, get me home. But I put some good barriers in place initially, where it was like not barriers, but it was like I probably see those that kind of like judgment or questions or like people try to force you drinks as well.
Oh, you get that. That was I forgot. That was the third one. Yeah. I'll get you a drink tonight. I'll get you a shot. I'm like, go ahead and waste your money. I'm not going to drink it. So yeah.
Yeah, that was a big component. So when it was like soda water and lime, kind of looks like a drink, but the people that do know me will know that it's no alcohol.
Ah,
But
right,
those
okay.
that do,
Yeah.
or those that don't know me will fucking won't even think about it. Second thing, taking my car, because nobody ever questioned, oh, why are you not drinking? I just got my car, mate. And it
Ah,
was just
right,
like,
okay.
so I think initially in that first 6 months, it was like I wanted to stack the deck because I knew how fucking shite it was, or like the detrimental effects afterwards. Didn't want any social pressures getting in the way. I stacked the deck of those things to the point that, like, see the autoresponder shit.
Mm-hmm.
The autoresponder for me was always, I'm driving, mate. Whereas I never go into any context to like why I don't drink, because it would always be such a long-winded, shitty conversation.
That's boring, innit?
Oh, it's
So boring, so
It's
boring.
so shite. You've told it a million times. They've heard it for the first time, and it's like,
Yeah.
I'm just fucking.
And then all the
sick of saying
follow up,
it.
and then all the follow up questions. So yeah. But I would say one of the biggest thing was working in hospitality for so long. You know, and it's actually, do you know what? It's actually seen people with more kind of quiet problems than like a clear problem with alcohol. Like I said, the guys that come in and they're having drinks every single day.
Yeah.
You're like, that, you know, something twigs there. And I know I've got that in me. Like certain members of my family, I would say, are probably highly functioning alcoholics. Or what they were, you know, again, very high achievers, very great people, love them to death, but they definitely couldn't go, I would say, longer than 2 days without a drink. I'm like, that's a problem. So looking at that as well, I'm like, well, do you know what? My DNA might be in there somewhere, so let's just not fucking open Pandora's box on that. Let's just stay well clear of that. My like I say, my willpower goes towards not eating sweeties and ice cream and all the sweet stuff.
I just bought Bex Ninja Creamy
for
our birthday, man.
That's a good move. That's a good move.
It's a good investment on my side as well. I'm gonna get some serious fucking dairy-free ice cream, mate.
I'm dieting now. I'm dieting just now, and Mum just came back from Madrid and she brought me like a kilo of pick and mix for the airport, and I was like, now I need to eat a kilo of pick and mix because it's not an option not to eat it. So I'm going to have to weigh out pick and mix over the next God knows how long. Hope my coach isn't listening to this. So yeah, that'll be interesting. Yeah,
100%, bro. Well, this has been honestly an incredible episode, mate. We've fucking jumped about on multiple different angles, which has been good shit, mate. Because I think as well, actually before you've done like 6 or 7 podcast episodes before, one of the things that I found like the most value is when I allow for just like the notes to flow into different pockets of information that are amazing topics to touch on, mate. And I think you provide some like super actionable value, which I wrote down at the beginning as one of the goals, but also to unpack some shit that probably maybe you have spoken about, but maybe not in a lot of detail, that we can then relate in a way that probably a lot of young guys or females are thinking about, which drinking's definitely one, fucking fear of judgment's definitely another, wanting to do some form of email marketing, wanting to use AI, wanting to write better copy. Anyone in business is wanting to do those things at the moment, mate. So incredible episode, mate. In terms of where people can find you,
best place is to go on my Instagram, hit a link in the bio and get on my email list. That's where all the good stuff is. Nice. So it's at Savage Scholar Chris.
Love it. Awesome stuff, brother. Well, thank you so much for the episode, mate. Honestly,
thanks, man.
It's been fantastic.
Pleasure.
Trips, wherever you're listening, Spotify or YouTube, obviously I kind of touched on it briefly. We're going to be moving to more weekly, longer form content that's going to be value packed for young entrepreneurs. We're also going to take some segments of this as well and put into kind of shorter form content as well. So wherever you are, stay tuned for more and have an incredible rest of your day.